At 81, Diana Ross lives in a world most fans would never recognize. In 2002, the world saw her mugshot after a DUI arrest that revealed blood alcohol levels twice the legal limit. But that public humiliation was just the beginning. Her brother was found murdered in Detroit. Her fairy tale marriage ended when she learned about her separation on live TV. The legendary star who gave us countless hits now battles demons that fame couldn't fix. Today, we're uncovering the heartbreaking truth about how Diana Ross really lives. Diana Ross' story began with a simple mistake that shaped her entire life. She was born on March 26 th. Her birth name 1944 in Detroit, Michigan. Her parents named her Diane Ernestine Earl Ross, but when the birth certificate was typed up, it said Diana instead of Diane. It was just a small clerical error, but it changed everything. Diana kept the name. IT had a certain grace and power that seemed to fit her future perfectly. The name Diana Ross would soon be seen on more than 100 million records, magazine covers all over the world, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Diana herself often laughed at how this tiny accident became her identity. Some even believed it was fate, as if that name was always meant for the girl who would become the Queen of Motown. Diana's childhood was shaped by the place where she lived and the people around her. Her house at 635 Belmont Street was in Detroit's North End. Right next door childhood in Detroit lived a boy who would one day be a Motown legend, too, William Smokey Robinson. The two families were close. Diana and Smokey would play and sing together, not knowing that both of them would one day become famous. They shared dreams of making it big. Those childhood moments turned into a deep friendship that lasted for years. Later, when they were both stars, they even had a secret romance hidden from the world. Growing up in that neighborhood, surrounded by music and struggle, gave them both the fire they needed to succeed. But Diana's early years weren't easy. When she was 7, her world fell apart. Her mother Ernestine became very sick with tuberculosis. In those days, that illness was often deadly. Diana and her siblings had to leave their home and move to Bessemer, Alabama, to live with relatives. It was a painful time. She was far from her parents and everything familiar. The fear of losing her mother stayed with her, but instead of breaking her, it made her stronger. She learned to face hardship head-on, and that strength stayed with her as she chased her dreams. On her 14th birthday in 1958, her family moved into the Brewster Douglas housing projects. These were tough places. The buildings were crowded. Crime and poverty were part of daily life. But for Diana, the projects became a place where ambition was born. She looked around and knew she had to escape, had to aim higher. And she wasn't alone. Other kids in the projects like Florence Ballard and Mary Wilson shared the same dream. They would soon join her on the road to stardom. The tough world around them pushed them to work harder, sing better, and never give up. By 1959, Diana was just 15 years old, but already thinking big. That year, she joined Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard, and Betty McClone to form the Primes. They wanted to be the female version of the Primes, the group that would later become the Temptations. These girls were fearless. They practiced for hours, sang at talent shows, and even sneaked into the Foxbury Gordy Theater to watch the stars perform. They soaked up every note, every move. They wanted success, and they were ready to fight for it. In 1960, they took their chance. They went to bury Gordy at Motown Records and asked for a deal. Gordy saw their talent, but told them to come back after finishing high school. Many would quit, but not Diana and her friends. They kept singing, kept pushing. They recorded a single for Asmal label and kept knocking on Motown's door. Diana even waited for hours at Hitsville, USA, hoping Gordy would listen. And in January 1961, their hard work paid off. Gordy signed them. IT was the star of something huge. But the Supremes, there was one more change. Gordy didn't like the name The Primates. He asked for new ideas. The girls made a list, but Gordy chose the Supremes. Diana didn't like it at first. She thought it sounded too fancy, but soon that name became legendary. In March 1961, they released their first single as the Supremes. Success didn't come right away, but by 1964, they had their first number one hit, Where Did Our Love Go? The name, the group, and Diana herself became part of American music history. In August 1964, the Supremes were still struggling. People at Motown had even started calling them the No-Hit Supremes because they had already released 8 singles that went nowhere. But everything changed when they recorded Awesome that almost wasn't theirs at all. Where Did Our Love Go? Where Did Our Love Go? Shot to the top of the Billboard Hot 100. It stayed at number 1 for 2 weeks from August 16th to August 29th. What makes this so surprising is that the song was first offered to another Motown group, the Marvels. They thought it was corny and said no. The Supremes didn't want either. Even Mary Wilson tried to turn it down, but Motown gave them no choice. The simple beat, helped by the sound of Motown's effects man Mike Valvano, stomping his feet, made it catchy. That song changed everything. It gave them their first number 1 hit. It was the start of 5 number 1s in a row. It made Diana Ross the star of the group. It helped Motown prove it could create crossover stars. The song became so important that it was later ranked among Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. It was even added to the National Recording Registry to be saved for future generations. From that moment, the Supremes became unstoppable. Between 1964 and 1969, they reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 a total of 12 times. No American girl group had ever done that before. It all started with Where Did Our Love Go? The hits kept coming, Baby Love, Come See About Me, Stop in the Name of Love, and You Can't Hurry Love. During those years, only the Beatles sold more records. The Supremes managed to get annually the Beatles sold more records, at least one number 1 song every single year. Even as they competed with the British invasion, they sold more than 46 million singles, with 34 million of those sold in the U.S. alone. The 5 number 1s in a row set a record for girl groups. They weren't just making music. They were breaking barriers. At a time when America was fighting over civil rights, the Supremes became symbols of beauty, success, and hope. They were Motown's top act and the most successful female group in history. It wasn't until decades later that Mariah Carey passed their record. But behind the glamour, things were getting tense. Diana Ross began to take over. She started answering questions meant for Mary Wilson or Florence Ballard. By 1965, she stopped calling herself Diane, the name her friends knew, and started using Diana. She quietly began asking for more money than the others. Many believe this was because of her close ties to Berry Gordy, the head of Motown. She made sure to stand out, wearing different clothes, demanding the center spot on stage, and sometimes arriving at changing the Supremes' name venues on her own with Gordy by her side. These actions hurt the group's bond. Mary Wilson later said Diana always wanted to be the star and would do anything to get there. That included pushing for more money and more control. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1967, the group's name was officially changed to Diana Ross and the Supremes. Berry Gordy made the decision just like he had done with Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, but this time it felt cruel. Mary and Florence felt like backup singers in their own group. Things got worse. Florence Ballard was replaced by Cindy Bird's song After Sad Night in Las Vegas. Florence found extra gowns waiting for her replacement and went on stage drunk. People began whispering that Diana would go solo soon. And in 1970, she did. Mary Wilson later said that changing the group's name was the worst thing that ever happened to them. That IT broke their unity and started the secret of fair string of fights and exits. Diana Ross' journey to superstardom was tangled with secrets, ambition, and complicated relationships. At the heart of it was her hidden affair with Berry Gordy, the powerful founder of Motown. It all began in the mid-1960s when Ross was becoming the shining face of the Supremes and Gordy was still married. Their connection was more than just personal. It changed the course of music history. People close to Motown saw how Ross's charm and closeness to Gordy helped her rise. Gordy himself admitted they were the same kind of people, both hungry for success. By 1967, the world could see the shift when Gordy renamed the group Diana Ross and the Supremes. That change wasn't just about a name. It allowed Motown to charge higher fees and made Ross the undeniable star. The secret relationship stayed hidden from the public, But insiders knew the truth that on August 14th, 1970, Ross had a daughter, Rhonda. Even though she was married to another man, Rhonda's biological father was Gordy. This affair didn't just cause whispers. It shook Motown's power structure, pushing Ross' bandmates aside as she climbed higher point. One of the most painful moments in this story came in July 1967. That's when Florence Ballard, who had once led the Florence Ballard Supremes, was pushed out. Ballard had struggled with depression, drinking, and health issues as Ross took center stage. Motown claimed she was simply exhausted, but the truth was harsher. Berry Gordy had already chosen Cindy Bird's song to replace her after a final heartbreaking performance in Las Vegas in June 1967. Ballard's fate was sealed on July 1st. Just one day after turning 24, Ballard showed up to perform, but was too drunk to finish. Gordy sent her home and made Bird's song permanent. Ballard was forced to sign a contract for a one-time payment of around $139,000, worth over $1 million today. But that deal robbed her of future earnings and even the right to use the Supremes' name. Her solo career never took off. She fell into poverty and died at just 32. Her brilliance overshadowed by the cruel way she was discarded. Behind the dazzling smile, Diana Ross's ambition often left others in the dust. Mary Wilson, her bandmate, spoke of how Ross made sure she always grabbed the spotlight. She would find out what the others planned to wear and pick something flashier. On stage, she would block the others with outstretched arms so that all eyes stayed on her. She refused to share costumes and ran to Gordy with complaints, using her Special A secret affair bond with him to get what she wanted. Ross didn't stop at that. She watched other groups, memorized their dance moves, and used them at Supreme's shows if they were her own. This hunger for tension caused deep rifts, helping tear the group apart. Ross' power didn't come from Gordy alone. She also had a secret affair with Smokey Robinson. Even though he was married, Robinson later said it lasted a year, and that was beautiful. But Ross ended it because she respected his wife. There were also rumors of romance with Brian Hollendoff, the famed songwriting team. These ties weren't just about love. They gave Ross influence that few could match. Many felt that she used these relationships to secure her rise, leaving a trail of hurt behind. The final night of Diana Ross and the Supremes came on January 14th, 1970 at the final night, the New Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. The show started at 11:54 p.m. and carried into the early morning. The crowd was packed with stars like Marvin Gaye and Smokey Robinson. The trio sang their hits one last time, ending with Someday We'll Be Together. That song, ironically, hadn't included Wilson or Bird's song in its recording. As the night closed, Ross introduced Jean Terrell as the new lead. Just 6 days later, she was recording her first solo single. The moment marked the end of an era and the start of something new. When Ross released Ain't No Mountain High Enough in July 1970, it took the world by storm. Gordy had doubted the song's potential, but radio DJs played it anyway. Bands loved it. On September 19, 1970, it hit no. 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, staying there for 3 weeks. The song brought Ross her first Grammy nomination and helped Motown dominate the charts that year. With 18 weeks at the top, it showed the world that Ross didn't need the Supermesto to succeed. Her first solo concert came on March 8, 1970 at Caesar S. Monticello in Framingham, Massachusetts. It was a key test, just a big screen before her big Vegas residency. Strangely, no recording of that performance exists, not even a bootlegger photo worth noting. That missing piece adds mystery to her early solo career. Fans can only imagine what that night sounded and looked like. When Diana Ross stepped onto the big screen for the first time in 1972 Foot Slady Sings the Blues, no one expected what came next. Here was Ross, famous as the stylish lead singer of Supremes, suddenly transformed into Billie Holiday. She had no acting background. Yet, what she delivered was powerful, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. So powerful, in fact, that academic Callan ignored her. In 1973, at the 45th Oscars, she earned a nomination for Best Actress. That moment shook Hollywood to its core. She was up against Liza Minnelli, who won for Cabaret. But Ross' performance was what people couldn't stop talking about. The film received 5 nominations in total, but hers was the one that truly mattered. The industry had expected someone like Diane Carroll or Cicely Tyson to land such a role, but Ross proved everyone wrong. Her performance raised the bar for black actresses and seemed to promise a brilliant film career ahead.